Evolution had 4 billion years to experiment, and some of its results look less like biology and more like glitches in the code. We tend to picture animals with variations on a theme: 4 legs, a heartbeat, blood that stays liquid, a body that stays one color, but scattered across the planet are creatures that quietly ignore those rules. One of them freezes into a solid block of ice every winter and thaws back to life in spring. Another carves its own waste into perfect cubes. A third can copy the exact sound of a chainsaw so well that lumberjacks look around for a coworker who isn't there. These aren't cartoons or urban legends. They're real animals, alive right now, whose bodies do things textbooks would call impossible if the footage didn't exist. So, here are 7 animals that break the rules of biology, counting down to the one whose secret is hiding in plain sight on every zoo poster. Number 1 is a bird you have definitely seen, doing something you have definitely never noticed. We start with an animal that solved a geometry problem no other creature on Earth has: the wombat, a stocky Australian marsupial that produces poop shaped like near-perfect cubes. Not rounded, not lumpy, but 6-sided little dice, 4 to 8 of them at a time, up to 100 in a single night. For years, scientists genuinely could not explain it, because nothing about a soft digestive tract should output sharp corners. In 2019, researchers finally worked it out. The last section of the wombat's intestine has walls of uneven stiffness, some stretchy, some rigid, and as the drying waste is squeezed along, those varying walls press it into flat sides and edges. The wombat isn't using a mold. It's shaping the cubes from the inside with muscle, and there's a reason it bothers. Wombats stack their cubes on rocks and lobs to mark territory, and a cube, unlike a ball, doesn't roll away. It's the only animal known to make square droppings, and it does it on purpose. Next is an animal that does something that should simply kill it. The North American wood frog spends its winters frozen into a solid, brittle block. As the temperature drops, up to 2/3 of the water in its body turns to ice. Its heart stops beating. It stops breathing. There is no measurable brain activity. By every normal definition, the frog is dead. The trick is chemistry. Just before freezing, the frog floods its own cells with huge amounts of glucose and urea, a natural antifreeze that keeps the ice from forming inside the cells and shredding them apart. The ice stays in the safe spaces between cells instead. The frog can hold its frozen, heartless state for weeks, even months, buried under the leaf litter. Then in spring, it thaws from the inside out. The heart shudders back to life, and within hours, the frog simply hops away as if nothing happened. It is one of the only vertebrates on the planet that can die of cold and then undie. Our 4th rule breaker keeps a tool in its armpit. Sea otters crack open clams, mussels, and sea urchins that most predators can't get into, and they do it with a rock. But the clever part is what they do between meals. Under each front leg, a sea otter has a loose pouch of baggy skin, and it uses that pocket as a toolbox. It stores the shellfish it's collected in there while it dives, and it keeps the single favorite rock, the one that cracks shells best, tucked into the same pouch to reuse again and again. Floating on its back, the otter balances the rock on its chest like an anvil and smashes the shell against it, sometimes thousands of blows a day. Keeping and reusing one chosen tool puts the sea otter in a tiny club of non-primate animals that are true tool users. It found the perfect rock, decided it was worth holding onto, and gave itself a pocket to carry it in. 3rd is an animal that experiences the world in a way we can barely imagine. The star-nosed mole is nearly blind, living underground in the dark, and where its nose should be, it has a ring of 22 pink, fleshy tentacles. That star is not for smelling. It's a touch organ, packed with more than 25,000 sensory receptors, and it lets the mole feel the shape of the world in extraordinary detail, essentially seeing by touch. It's also the fastest eating mammal ever measured. When a tentacle brushes something edible, the mole can identify it and swallow it in as little as 1/8 of a second, faster than the human eye can follow. The star flicks across the soil, touching a dozen spots a second, deciding food from not food quicker than your brain registers a flash of light. It can even smell underwater by blowing tiny air bubbles out of its nose and breathing them back in. It's a creature built almost entirely around a sense we don't have. 3rd is an animal so strange that when the first specimen reached Europe, scientists were convinced it was a hoax, a duck's-bill stitched onto a beaver. The platypus is a mammal, but it lays eggs. It has no stomach, its food passing straight into its gut. The males carry venom in spurs on their hind legs strong enough to floor a dog. It has no teeth, grinding food with pads of gravel it scoops up. And it hunts with its eyes, ears, and nose all sealed shut underwater, navigating instead by electroreception, sensing the faint electrical pulses of its prey's muscles through its bill. Then, in 2020, biologists shone ultraviolet light on one and discovered the fur glows a soft blue-green, for reasons still unknown. It is a warm-blooded, egg-laying, venomous, toothless, glow-in-the-dark animal that finds its dinner by electricity. The platypus doesn't break one rule of biology. It breaks nearly all of them at once, and somehow it has been quietly doing so for millions of years. Number 2 is the greatest impressionist alive. Australia's superb lyrebird has a voice box so sophisticated it can reproduce almost any sound it hears with unsettling accuracy. In the wild, it mimics up to 20 other bird species in a single performance, stitching their calls together into a medley. But it doesn't stop at birds. Lyrebirds living near human activity have learned to copy chainsaws, car alarms, camera shutters, and even the beep of construction machinery so precisely that recordings fool people every time. A male does all of this for one reason: to impress a female. He clears a stage on the forest floor, throws his lacy tail over his head like a veil, and runs through his entire catalog, blending stolen birdsong with the noise of the machines tearing up his forest. The better the mimic, the better his chances. It means a lyrebird song is partly a recording of its own environment, including us. Somewhere in Australia, a bird is singing a perfect chainsaw to win a date. And the #1 rule breaker is a bird on every zoo poster, doing two things almost nobody realizes. Start with the obvious one: flamingos are not born pink. Chicks hatch a dull gray. Their famous color is literally painted on from the outside in by pigments called carotenoids in the algae and tiny brine shrimp they eat. The more of it they eat, the pinker they get, and if you took that food away, a flamingo would slowly fade back to white. Its color is basically a status update on its diet. But here's the part that stops people cold. Flamingo parents feed their chicks a bright red liquid called crop milk, produced deep in their throat, and to make it, they pull the red pigment out of their own bodies and pour it into their young. Feeding a chick literally drains the color from the parent, turning it paler while the baby grows. The most famous pink bird on Earth isn't just what it eats, it quietly gives its own color away to the next generation. If your brain just glitched a little, subscribe. Barely Believable drops a new one every week.